I was the first millennial millionaire on CNBC. People in the personal finance world, everyone steals all each other's stuff. We are in the last golden age of affiliate personal finance content marketing. I'm pretty bullish on physical analog assets. So I've actually been using ChatGPT writing my new book.
Do you have to give credit to ChatGPT if it helps you with that? Hello and welcome everybody. This is Bobby. I've got my good buddy Grant Sabatier here, and Grant brought some what is that, eggnog? Eggnog with some whiskey in it.
With Hudson whiskey in it, yes.
Let's go.
Being festive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I decided that, you know what, I'm gonna day drink with Grant, and we're gonna have some fun. I have some my parents.
It is the afternoon. It is the afternoon.
Yeah, dude, it's 5 o'clock. I don't know, somewhere. Yeah, dude. But I was just saying, I've had. I think that you're probably like the 12th or 13th guest, maybe. And nobody else has taken me up on the drinking part of it. So I just haven't done it. So when you brought it, I was like, dang, okay, yeah, that's right. We do pitch that. But yeah, dude, how's it been? It's been a long time since I've talked to you, and you're doing a ton of shit. You've always done a lot of stuff. And I don't know. Let's just chat,
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
So the final draft of my book is due January 15th. So I'm writing, the follow-up to my first book, which is, kind of been not a sleeper hit, but done better than I thought it ever would. And so the fall, I'm kind of in that sophomore album, space. And so
Yeah.
I'm in the writing. It's end of the year, but I'm trying to clear up some business loose ends. But I'm in the writing headspace. I'm very much I've written the book. It's there. I'm editing. It's 14 chapters. I'm right in the middle of chapter 7, so I'm right in the middle of it. I was editing it right before we got on this show, and
Nice.
there's kind of like writer Grant, which is a particular type of Grant, which honestly is probably when I'm outside of being with my family when I'm happiest. I'm just
Okay, just chilling.
Introvert, kind of sitting here with all my books, looking out my window, and I just love being in that headspace. It's where I feel most comfortable and happy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to relish that. It's like relish and just enjoy that process. And then the other side of my coin is I have a business and employees just like you, and all that year-end tax stuff and final reconciling reports, which I love wearing that hat and being that Grant, but I don't love it as much as writing. And so I try to balance the two of those things together. It's been a long year, man. My baby just turned 1, and so I have all that family stuff. But yeah, overall, super. I think I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life, which
Hell yeah.
is something that I recognized maybe a couple of months ago, where it's kind of just all hit me, where it's like, wow, this is why you worked so hard, and this was worth it, and so there's kind of a really nice kind of settling into that and being comfortable with that. And I think it's so hard kind of to, we all go through a lot of different phases. And I think for me, it's been very hard to kind of get out of that sort of just grind for grind's sake mode and just double back on, I don't know, just thinking about you spend so much time trying to become something, and then maybe you become that, or you become something different. And I feel like I've become pretty much what I wanted to become, and now I need to enjoy that and just do that instead of worrying about trying to become the next thing. And so I'm finally, I think, comfortable. I know it's kind of a big answer, but I'm kind of comfortable in my own skin, I would say, with where I'm at right now.
Dude, I think that's something that I've very much felt for this past year too. It's been cool because it's just I actually, for a while, I ran into this issue, and you probably ran into this too, where I was like, man, I kind of accomplished everything that I originally set out to do. Cause dude, I was a teacher. I didn't know anything about business. I never thought that I would make money or have money or anything like that. And so then it's once I got there, I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? What am I supposed to be?
Right.
And once I realized that, I was telling you before we got up, before we hit record, once I realized that I really enjoy building a business because of the people part of it. And I've just been doing that and just going like, this is who I am. Like, this is what I finally know. Like, this is what I'm good at. And this is what makes me happy. And I like working really hard, but I like working with people. And so this last year, it's just been kind of like, I guess, sitting in that, and just like, this is it, and I've been really happy because of it. So I'm glad that the same thing happened for you. And I am curious about like when you first, because like I met you, when did I meet you? 2015? Is that somewhere around
Yeah,
there?
2015, probably early 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like I know your story, and I think anybody that watches this probably, adjacently knows your story. Maybe they've seen you on CNBC or Business Insider, or read the book or whatever. But like, did you sit down and intentionally go like, I am going to do these things? Like, did you have like a path that you had set out for yourself, or was it something that just kind of naturally progressed? Because for me, it was like naturally progressed because like I didn't, like I said, I didn't think I could do anything. So like, how did that work? Pre 2015 when you were looking at getting into the personal finance space, like was this your goal the entire time?
No, it wasn't my goal.
Mm,
My goal, it's definitely been much more cobbled together with a
mm,
few really sort of. I'm kind of a waiter, so
okay.
I'm good at kind of sitting on the sidelines and watching and paying attention.
Hmm.
I think the internet, I knew, early on, the internet, even more so today, it just has the ability, because it's so infinite and our brains can't even comprehend or hold it. It
Yeah.
just has the ability to drive us insane and crazy. And I knew pre 2015, I was afraid of the internet. I wasn't a
Interesting.
social poster. I wasn't, and you look even today, I mean, look on my Instagram. The last post I made was in February of 2022,
Hmm.
right? And so this is like, like, there's some, we can get into that a little bit, why I don't
Yeah.
participate. But yeah, man, I felt like I never had anything to say in life until I reached financial independence. I had a digital marketing agency. I was marketing MBA programs. I was building a business. I had two business partners. I didn't like what I did. It was really a means to an end. And so I pursued financial independence. And once I became FI, then I was like, holy crap, I did this, and that was insane, and I learned a lot. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, I have some things that I feel like I want to say, and I have some people that I feel like I could be helpful to, right? Because I started talking to my friends about money. They didn't really care that much. I was like, okay, I need other
Yeah.
people to talk to about this. And so I started participating, online. But in 2015, I went to FinCon, and I didn't know anyone there. I just flew down to Charlotte, and I really paid attention. So
Mm.
I remember like Kyle from the Penny Hoarder had like a big booth, and I sat in on a session that Erin Lowry did. She already had Broke Millennial. Stephanie O'Connell did a session, and I was really
Yeah.
paying attention to what was happening there. And I hadn't written a blog. I didn't have the idea for the blog, nothing. I was like, I want to see how people are creating in this space. And when I was there, it's when I had my aha moment, which was, okay, wow, there's a lot of really kind of amateur bloggers who are sharing and being open and vulnerable about money and talking about money openly. And I want to talk with them. Some of them became my friends. And then there's all these really big brands that
Yeah.
legally they just can't say what they want to say. And so, okay, how am I going to participate in this? I have a web design background. I'm kind of a marketing guy. How can I create my own website that looks really shiny but is open and vulnerable? And that was my strategy. So that was intentional. Like when I
Yeah.
launched Millennial Money, it was like I already had the domain because I'd bought it in a domain auction. But I was like, I'm going to use this domain, and I'm going to be really, really open and vulnerable, but I'm going to make the website really shiny, so people are going to think. And this is what happened. People are like, "Oh my gosh, like you're a great company." They thought we
Right.
had all these employees, right? And it was just me. And then on the flip side, people were like, "Oh wow, this guy's like being very open and transparent about money." And I'd heard something about from Warren Buffett before I started Millennial Money, where he talked about, what people really care about is your mistakes. They're going to learn from your mistakes. And so that was a piece of advice in my head. And so early on, that was all I really wrote about on Millennial Money. It was not my wins. It was just like, here's all the things I messed up. And I wrote this one post, like a return to frugality, when like my spending went from $50,000 to over $200,000, and
Hmm.
all the guilt that created in my life. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
I've never done therapy in my life, and I felt like the internet like became, you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
it was like my therapy. And so that it ended up working out, pretty well. But that was really the only strategic decision that I made, was like, oh, I'm going to build the brand in this way. Um, Never thought that I could ever, get a book deal. That I always wanted to write a book, but it's something that's just like so, like it's just too big of a thing. And so
Yeah.
it didn't fall in my lap, but once I was pretty good at once I realized something was an opportunity, then I just go all in on it because I realized I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna. I don't know. I very and this is 100% true. Like I've had my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I recognized it like as it was coming, and once I was in it, where it was like, ah, this is it. Okay, like how do I use this as a launching pad? And so many things I didn't do, right? Like I didn't have a course, I didn't have anything to sell anyone, so everything blew up in my life, and I had no way to make money off of it, right? So
Right.
like I missed that opportunity, and I felt really guilty about that for a while. But I did get the book deal and some other some SEO links and some other things I was able to leverage. But
Sure.
um, I think I recognized like, oh crap, I might not get another chance at this, and then so I seized that opportunity. But looking back, it's like, yeah, it's just so much luck and right
Well, it
time,
always
right
is, right?
place. Yeah, so much luck and then also just I think there's some people I notice that are successful that there are people who just kind of see the moment and then they appreciate it too, right? So it's very much one of those things where I was like, this is never going to happen again. Like,
Right.
let's be honest. Like, and I think the internet's hard. Like, I struggle with this, a bit to this day because the internet moves so rapidly, and I feel grateful that I've had the success that I've had, and I'm able to do what I want to do and not have to participate in the internet the way it is today. Do you know what I mean? Like you and I
Yeah.
got in early enough where we could, make money on our blogs, and you can still do that, but it's like you and I didn't have to we didn't have to try to play the TikTok algorithm or ride it
Right.
to feed our families. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine the stress of that. Dude, I
Oh, I think
can't.
it would suck now. I mean, I think about that all the time. Like, who was I talking to the other day? I think I was talking to maybe PT. He
Hmm.
came on and I was talking about just when, in your story, I can't remember. I remember when you got featured in CNBC, and I might have even been talking about you, but like, it's such an incredible story, like $2 in your bank account to $1 million and all of that. But now I look at that, and then you see how there are so many more incredible stories out there now than there
Oh
were
my
when you were
gosh.
coming up. Like,
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh.
think, like, my story, nobody would even give a shit about my story anymore. I paid off 40,000 in student loans in 18 months. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter, like, so it is such a timing thing because like, if I'd rolled out with that story last year, like there's kids that are becoming like multi millionaires with crypto or with, being influencers, whatever, like every day. And it's happening so fast and making so much money. So I think about that a lot. Like we really did hit this like kind of a gap in the attention market where it was like you could start a blog and build a foundation for a company. I do think about that all the time. Like, man, so lucky because like now, what would I say? Like
Yeah.
nobody would care about student loans. It's wild.
No, no, and the fact that yeah, right time, right place, ability to take advantage of it. I think now we were also at a time in the internet when people really wanted to be inspired. And I think
Yeah.
now the thing is, it's become so, and this is what I worry about, it's become so sensationalized that like
Yeah.
my story's like, was cool because, you know, let's be honest, like I was able to save $1 million in 5 years, but it's not like I saved like 50 million.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or 100 million, or I'm like a billionaire, right? So it's like there's been people, my readers, who've gone on and done way more than I've done in less time, right? And it's super
Sure.
impressive and awesome to see. But the challenge is like, even me having done what I did, when I like see the headlines now, it's like so over sensationalized, where it's just like, oh, guy started $100 million company before he was 25, and it's like, okay, cool, but like how's that relevant to me? Or what has happened is everything's become just like a watered down copy of what we've already done,
Right.
right? So it's like, yeah, I was the first millennial millionaire on CNBC, and now
Hmm.
there's like been like they literally
How
created Make
many?
It, or like the Millennial Money CNBC video channel, after all of that stuff, and they are writing about side hustles. Let's talk, like you and I were writing about that in 2015, and
Yeah.
now it's just like it's like so mainstream, and so I think it's one of the things where the transformative potential of someone's story or someone's narrative is becoming, people are just more and more skeptical, as they should be.
Yeah.
right? And so that's one of the reasons why like I write books, because it's like, if you're going to spend 10 hours hanging out with me, I have an opportunity to tell you a deeper story or engage with you on a deeper level, as opposed to this like, I literally don't know how to participate in social media. Like, what do I get on there and say? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I did this thing 8 years ago, and now I'm an entirely different person, and
Yeah.
I don't really have, and I mean, that's cool to see like some people walk around and talk to their phone, and like
Sure.
that one like older dude who's like taking off. I don't know, he's a financial advisor or something, or these people like Erica. Like I pay attention to what people are doing, but every time I just like take a deep breath and I'm like, thank God I don't have to do that, or I don't,
Yeah.
it just I literally have no idea. I'm thinking about this for the marketing of the next book. I'm like, I have nothing I want to say. Like, if you want to read my book or like subscribe to my newsletter and come hang out and like listen to me pontificate about something that I want to write about, awesome. But like yeah, it's just there's no, it's losing its, to me it, and I'm sure, I mean, obviously it inspires like 20-year-olds, and
Yeah.
people get
Yeah.
inspired by all kinds of different stuff, and there's a lot of value there. And it's been cool to see like the fans of our work, like the Tori Dunlops, and the
Hmm.
new people, the Vivian Twos, like become successful. And I love seeing the new generation of content. But man, I feel aged out of the internet like completely,
Oh, bro,
in a
me
way
too.
that I yeah, it's a humbling experience, I'll say.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. We were, I've got two editors, and they're actually no, I've got my head of content. I think he's 28, and then my two editors are 20. They're like 21 and 20 or something. And I was sitting in there with Ariel, my head of operations, and we had a content meeting, and I was just like, with the two of us, Ariel's 40, I'm 35, and we were listening to these three guys talk, and Ariel and I were like slacking each other, like, what the hell are they even talking about? Like, it was the first time in my life that I've legitimately just like felt so old. And it was with an internet thing. Like, I've been working on the internet for years, and I was sitting there like listening to these kids talk about like how to get, the best engagement in the first 30 seconds of the YouTube video and all the stuff you have to do. And I was like, I don't even understand this stuff anymore. Like, it's kind of passed me by, but fortunately they just tell me what to do now, and it's like,
Mm.
they just say these things, do these things, and we'll take care of it. Like Frankie, he's head of content. He had me walking around FinCon with the microphone thing, like interviewing people. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Never done it before. But I did it, and it was fun, but it was just like, I can't imagine trying to build a foundation, like you said. Now, I think building a foundation would be incredibly difficult. And I think we just lucked out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I mean, this is just on my mind because I was editing this before we got on this call. I think so much, especially with the internet or any type of business, I think not enough people talk about how to choose what not to do
Mm,
before choosing what you should do. And
yeah.
I think that so much of building a business, easier to say in retrospect, of course, but every day we're always just making so many choices, right? And we're trying
Yeah.
to ultimately make choices, to your first question. We're ultimately trying to make choices that move us towards, a life that we love or that we want to be a part of. And unconsciously we make some of those, and consciously we make others. But I feel like oftentimes, especially early on, it's very hard to choose, when you're trying to do everything, right? And you
Hmm.
want to be everything, and you burn out, and then you try again, and then you do this. Looking back, it's so easy to understand, like, oh, I'm more defined by the choices that I didn't make than the ones that I did.
Yeah.
And you kind of, if you choose to not make, a lot of choices, you end up somewhere where you don't have to do those things that you don't want to do, or you don't have to build your business in a way that you don't want to. And naturally your business ultimately becomes, just like money, kind of a
Hmm.
magnifier of your life or an expression of your life. Or you hinted on it, where it's like, hey, I really love having full-time employees and working with people, and
Yeah.
business to me, I already have more money than I thought I would. And business to me is about collaboration and community and creation, and just to really oversimplify it, just hanging out in a sandbox with some other people, playing around, building some stuff.
Yeah.
And you've gotten there probably through a windy road that's very different than you could have ever. You couldn't have even have designed it. And I think
No.
the same thing with me. Like like I'm a writer. I like, that's what I would call myself. That's what my wife always laughs. She's like, oh, like, I don't even know how to describe you. Like, she has like the worst ways to describe you. She's like, like Susie Orman. He's like Susie Orman kind of for millennials. And I was like,
Maybe,
maybe.
yeah.
Or she'll be like, he just takes like all this boomer financial advice and then he like rewords it for millennials. I was like, that's a little
Dang.
harsh, but
That's
that's
like
a little. I was like, that's a little harsh, but
that's
okay,
damn.
but okay, right? And then she's like, what are you gonna say? Are you like an entrepreneur? Are you like this? And I was like, I'm a writer. That's like what I am. And
Yeah.
I think I realized like working on this book. I mean, I'm happy. I'm enjoying it. I love the challenge. I'm gonna write another one after this. And I'm just like, I woke up and I was like, this is my vocation. Like when you look back and you read things from like 100 years ago, or even like the Andrew Carnegie or like people like the turn of last century, like people really they picked a career, right, and they stuck with it, right? It's like they
Yeah.
had their vocation. They apprenticed and they had their vocation. And so I woke up and suddenly it just clicked in my head. It's like, yeah, I can invest I'm an investor and I'm an entrepreneur and I love tinkering these things, but I'm a writer. And I'm a
Mm,
writer just like a plumber is a plumber. And
yeah.
so like I show up when I write and I think I'm like I respect the craft. I try to get better. And this is what I do. Like this is like I'm a mechanic. I'm a plumber. I'm like a right. It's the same thing. It's like this is my
Yeah.
vocation. And so once I was able to settle on that, to be honest, it made sort of some of these other opportunities that I could pursue or other things like people, dude, for like 5 years. Like I had an agent try to get me to do speaking. Like speaking, you become a writer and then you're a speaker, right? And you hop
Mm,
on a plane and you go talk. And I did some of these speaking engagements, and I liked it when I spoke at a university, but I hated it when I spoke to bankers or like anyone that was like just trying to target millennials. And I was like, this is just soul crushing. Like I
yeah.
don't want to do any of this, right? And so I made a limit where it's like, yo, I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to go stay in some Holiday Inn in Des Moines and talk to some regional banker association for 20 grand or whatever. I was like, no, like, and so I think that, setting those kind of limits and then understanding like, yes, I could make a lot more money doing that or could make money doing that, but by saying no to it, ultimately it moves me to do the exact thing that I want to be doing and should be doing.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's been, yeah, quite freeing for me in a way because me, I'm like, I'm gonna invest in all these things and do all this stuff and
Yeah.
be all these things and it's sort of like, yeah, it's like a breath of, it's like a comfortable space. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try to be as good as I can at it, and just and this is what I do. And if you want to find me, I'm over here doing this thing.
Yeah, no, I think that totally makes sense. And to go back to what you said earlier, one of the things that I think just watching your career kind of unfold, um, I think that what you said earlier about you noticed that there was like an opportunity, like you came out, your story was on Make It. Was that the first place it came out, or was it somewhere else? Was it Make It, and then it kind of started spiraled from
February,
there?
February. I think it's February 7th,
Oh wow,
2015.
like
Something like
you
that.
remember the day, dang.
Yeah.
But I remember you did such a good job of yeah, like leaping onto that opportunity and like riding that wave, and then turning it into something really cool. Um, and I think I've always thought like that's such a skill to be able to do that. And I don't know if it's something that's just like maybe because you seem to like find opportunities and then like you said, kind of leap on them, and I feel like that's why you maybe invest in so many different things and you're involved in so many different projects because you just like are constantly looking for opportunities. But I thought you did that so well.
Thank you.
And I think the cool thing is that you had one of the things that I haven't until recently, I kind of regretted this about my career because like when my story was on CNBC, I actually had like, there was a publisher that reached out to me and was like, we want to do a book deal. And I never even responded to the email because I was like, I don't think I have anything to say. Like I really struggled early on with like, um, was I supposed to try to be the next Dave Ramsey or the, whatever, like this next like guru kind of person. And I never felt like until like maybe this last year, like I finally feel like, okay, I actually have something to say now. But I didn't have that for so long. And I'm wondering like, does that just happen at different times for everybody? Because you see like people just like blow up and they start writing books and not doing the publishing process. Like, did they help you kind of craft your message and like, or did it just amplify what you're already talking about? And I
Well,
mean the
yeah. First,
publishers.
yeah. First off, I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, man.
Reflecting back on it, I haven't really thought about much about that CNBC period in a while. It was so stressful, dude. It
Oh,
was
I
like,
bet.
it was more stressful than it was exciting. It was like, holy crap, I need to, like, what do I do here? I need to take advantage of this. This is insane. Like, everyone in the world sending me articles about me, and everyone from my
Yeah.
like childhood reaching out, old principal, like every person ever. It was stressful, dude. It
Hmm.
was so stressful. But to the book piece, I think, now I've been involved, I've helped helped Jordan, Grummett, come up with his, book idea, Taking Stock, and craft that. And I worked with Lisa Peterson on Mindful Millionaire, and I've worked with a number of authors, on their books, read proposals, helped people get agents. I love like helping other people get their messages and stories out into the world. It's like something I'm very passionate about. The
Yeah.
reality is like most people, it's not that most people don't have something to say, like that's a precursor. You want to have something to say, but the actual craft of writing a book, right? And I think I told you this back then. I was like, dude, writing a book. When I was writing it, I was writing my book. I was like, this
Yeah.
sucks. Like
Yeah. I
the
remember that.
first, yeah, the first 30, yeah, I was complaining about it constantly, because in the first 30,000 words, my publisher just completely rejected it. And my editor's like, I don't know if you can do this. And I was like,
Dang.
maybe like, and that was, I needed to hear it. And the reality is like, and there's so many people, I mean, you see this on like, not to hate on like Wiley Press Books or like, some of these publishers, you see a lot of people like something like a Wall Street Journal bestseller like means nothing. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm.
look at these books, these people that come out, any book, look at any book, like book pops, sells maybe 500 copies, 1,000 copies, and it disappears. Like to me, what mattered is I wanted to write a perennial seller. And so I remember Ryan Holiday, actually, one of the greatest marketers on earth. I'm not really into stoicism or, care about his other work, but like he wrote a book called Perennial Seller, which is all about how to write a book that continues to sell, and how do you write a book that people will pick up. And I remember I used to listen to this. I had a little Bose speaker in my shower, and I remember I listened to it when I would take a shower in the morning, this Perennial Seller book. And I was just like, how do I write a book that people will keep reading, and that I can be a part of the conversation? And so I'm just saying that through the lens of like, I also feel like I got lucky there. Right time, right place, right? It's like I wrote a fire book as fire was starting to get a little popular, even though I didn't mention fire, and I did that specifically because I wanted to take some of those five principles to a broader audience. It really fit with the whole millennial money sort of strategy of taking something that people might perceive as really hardcore and putting it in a easy to digest wrapper. So like you're able to meet people where they are without having to like, you know, so that was done strategically. I was like, I'm going to write a personal finance book about my financial independence journey, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to be so hardcore that someone picks it up and they're like, I can't do what Grant did, or I didn't take
Mm.
anything away from this, or, so I'm just saying this all through the lens of like writing a book is hard in and of itself, but trying to write a book that the only thing that sells books is like someone reading it and then passing it to their friends or family. Like that's what sells books. Outside of like, the random Morgan Housel Psychology of Money, just going insane and becoming, or Atomic Habits or something, like those are such the extreme outliers. For anyone that's like in the top 5% of book sales, what sells your book and keeps selling your book is just people giving it to other people. And the only way that
Mm.
they do that, no marketing, no nothing. If they have to get value from it and then want to give that to someone else. And I'm just saying the long-winded answer is like, uh, to craft that, you have to think about, okay, like how am I participating in the conversation that other books like mine have already started? So the thing is, whenever you
Yeah.
write a book, a lot of people are like, I'm just going to share my story. I'm just going to share my point of view. But the thing is, books meet a moment, right? So they come out at a particular time and people are thinking about things. And the things that big publishers are extremely good at, the big publishers, is they're really good at anticipating what the trends will be in 2 to 3 years. So they're actually quite good at understanding, okay, people will be interested in this topic or they'll be interested in this. They're not great at it, but they're pretty good. They're better than most industries. And so what they're
Yeah.
doing is they're looking for authors who have a platform, who are moving, have a perspective that they feel like will be relevant at this time in 2 to 3 years, right? So
Yeah.
more people are talking about money openly, right? That was something, and
Hmm.
my publisher was into that. Oh, wow. Oh, we just had some success with Erin Lowry, right? So her being successful at Penguin was great for me because they're like, oh, we want another Erin, but we want it to be slightly different, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like the hippie, philosophy major, Aaron. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
like in their heads, it's like that simple. You know what I'm saying? So what they do is whenever they buy a book, when you write a book proposal, one of the most important sections is known as the comparables. And the comparables are the 4 or 5 books that you identify as being most similar to your book. And so for me, it was like 4 Hour Work Week. It was like, Aaron Lowry, it was Broke Millennial. It was, I Will Teach You to Be Rich from Meet SETI. Like these are all books that were like mine. And then you have to explain what their perspective is and why yours is different. Because anytime people often think about books in a vacuum, like this is just my story, I'm writing about this. But what makes a book successful, or at least I feel, is you have to know what you're entering into, right? So I knew that like how could I didn't just need to write another millennial money book, right? Like that had already been written. Aaron did an incredible job at that, right? So it's
Yeah.
like how do you participate? And now it's harder and harder because not only do you have to like think about what kind of book you want to write, but you have to pay attention to the other books that are coming out, right? So right now I'm writing an entrepreneurship book, right? So the follow up to Financial Freedom is all about entrepreneurship, right? It's like how to come up with an idea, how to scale that idea, how to grow a team around it, how to sell the business, how to build a holding company. Like it's this very,
Right.
it follows kind of this next phase of my life. So what I had to do is I had to go in and I've read, Traction, and I've read everything, like all the best-selling business books of the last decade. I've read a vast majority of them, and so now I understand. Here's why my book is different. And I can talk about that to my publisher so they understand how to market it. And then for when I'm creating, I'm like, oh, here's why someone would buy my book and Traction, right? Or and 12 months to $1 million, or and my book and Alex Hermosi or Russell
Yeah.
Brunson, or here's where I fit in. Um, and then the last piece on this is kind of knowing your style, right? Like you're a great writer. Like you've always been a great writer. Like you've got a really honest perspective. That's one of the things that, I think why you've been so successful. It's one of the things that connected us. Like you're a great writer. Like you're very open. Like you're to the point. And so you do have a really good point of view and a good voice. And I think the more that you can, or not even you, but just anyone can
Right.
distill down, here's who I am, and be comfortable in that, then you have something. So what you do is you have a point of view on a topic, and then you have a voice, and then you understand where your book fits in the market, and then you meet a moment. So when you have kind of those 4 equations, so now it's like it's so funny. Like I just have to share this. I think you might think it's funny. So ChatGPT actually has read all my work, right? So
Right.
if you go to ChatGPT, you're like, who's Grant Sabatier? What's Grant Sabatier's writing style? So I've actually been using ChatGPT writing my new book. So I'll write a literally like two or
It's
three
so funny.
paragraphs, and I'll upload it, and I'll have prompted ChatGPT, "Hi, this is Grant Sabatier. Who's Grant Sabatier?" And then it recognizes who I am, and then I'm like, "I'm writing a book on entrepreneurship. Can you edit these 3 paragraphs in the style of Grant Sabatier?" And it will do it. So it edits
Yeah.
my own work in my own voice, and it's actually been quite helpful because it thinks that I'm a lot more inspiring than I feel that I naturally am. So it actually makes the what it does is it takes what I'm writing and it makes it more hopeful, which is like the
That's interesting.
trippiest, like weird,
Yeah.
like what world are we living in? And so I'm just saying that through the lens of like, I've like my book, like I can't write an Atomic Habits, and I can't write a Psychology of Money, and I can't write an I'll Teach You to Be Rich, and I can't write, Get Whole, and I can't write any of these things. Like, but once you know what you can do, and all I'm really good at is I can take like an inspiring story and put a lot of tactical elements supporting
Hmm.
it, and I can infuse it with a lot of love. You know what I mean? I've got a
Yeah.
dial of love because I actually want people to be successful, right? I don't know where this comes from, but some part of me like wants people to suffer less around money. And I really think making money is dope and cool. And I love all the ideas. And I'm like a kid who like wants to show you all the stuff in my, closet. Like
Yeah.
that's how I think about, that's how like I am in life. I'm always like showing people all my cool stuff. And that's the way I view it. And I'm really excited for people to read it, and that's something that's unique to me. Like other people do it and they can try to do it, but it's like literally Chat GPT helped me understand who I was
That's
and
so
how
wild.
I write. Isn't that trippy? I was like, yes. Like it's like Grant Sabatier is an inspiring personal finance writer who does a great job making complex, financial topics accessible with hopeful stories. Like it
Yeah.
literally distilled it in a way I never would, and I was like, yes. I was like, that's it. That's it. I do that. I do that. Yes, I do that. So for this next book, it's been so freeing because I'm like, I don't have to do any of that other stuff. I'm just going to keep doing this. So literally, my new book, you can read Financial Freedom, and you can put my new book right at the end, and you can just keep reading. And it's got the same. I mean, it's structured the same way. It's got the same
Yeah.
feel. It's got the same energy. It's way too long, but it fits. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
fits. And so I'm like, I just need to do that. That's been so freeing, dude. Because then it's like, I don't have to compare myself to all these other to all these other people or all these other books or all these other writers because I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come up with the entrepreneur operating system. I'm not going to do
Right.
these things. But here's what I can do. I can take a lot of information and make it accessible and jam pack it so you can learn a ton about entrepreneurship in a book in a way that you're not going to learn in any other book
Right.
because of the way that I put it together. So that for me, it's like some people will be into that. And some people are going to be like, dude, this guy, like, you know, I mean, people, but that's what you want, like people, financial freedom, like, I read it now and I'm like, dude, that dude was just like, I don't even recognize him. Like, that guy was
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so excited and pumped and, and it's funny because now, like, I wrote Financial Freedom and what's happened is the readers have just gotten younger and younger. So when
Right.
it came
That's
out, it
cool.
was like people our age, and now it's like 16-year-olds, and their parents giving
Hmm.
it to them for Christmas. And I'm cool with that. And people are like, oh, this is a really really simple. And I'm like, yeah, it seems really simple now. Like I wrote this in 2017, and now
Yeah.
all these ideas they're mainstream. Like
Yeah.
they're which is
That's
like
crazy.
yeah, the world moves so fast. So now it's like I think the way I'm writing about entrepreneurship, everybody will be talking about it this way in 5 years, and that'll be awesome, right? And I can't own that. Like you can't own that. And I think a lot of people like creators like they're so worried. This is the thing, man. So people are so worried that people are going to steal their shit. And the
Yeah.
thing is, it's collaboration over competition, man. Like you have to have
Hmm.
confidence in your idea and what you're doing, and you need to pay attention to your competitors and collaborate with them. But the more time that you spend just obsessing over what they're doing instead of doing your thing, the thing is like you're missing the whole point. And so now I
Yeah.
find him like, yeah, steal, I'm not going to name names, but like, I mean, like people in the personal finance world, everyone steals all each other's stuff. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like, it's like endemic to it. And I know people who are like, gosh, they took this from me or they took that from me. And me, I read some people's books. I'm like, I know that you stole this from me because it's not even the idea. The way that this is even phrased is how I write. So I either influenced you or you stole it, and that's fine. But I'm cool with that. Like, it's just sort of like you got to keep moving and you got to remember that like even though like for me I've had my 15 minutes of fame, like you can't come like I'm always going to have a new idea. You know what I mean? Like I'm always going to have, or I mean I say that really like cockingly but like I
Yeah, but
think
it's
I
true
feel
though.
confident. I feel confident that as a creator I will keep having ideas, and so copy me all you want. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just have fun because I'm already 2 years ahead of you. And this is the
Right.
thing about the book. The last thing about the book, man, like if you want to write a book, you should totally write a book. You should try to make it the best book ever. Like I'm here to help. Read anything. Like give you honest feedback. I think traditional publishing, like going with a big publisher who like supports you, is like far better than self-publishing for so many reasons. And like the books are just they're magic, man. And this is the thing is when you write a book, like I didn't have a goal with mine. Like you can write them with a specific goal, but the cool thing about it is like if you do it well, it does give you a really really big competitive advantage because
Right.
people
Yeah.
like can't like this is like the whole Cal Newport deep work philosophy. It's like good luck, like good luck spending all the time that I did trying to do this.
Yeah.
Um, and that helps. But then on the flip side, if you write a book that's shitty, then you can't get rid of like that's what I'm worried about now, right? So I had some success. Now I'm on the second one, and I'm like, oh shit, like I should have just maybe I just want to leave it at one that was good and resonated because now I'm doing it again, And my publisher's literally like, oh yeah, second books, like just that's why we're giving you 2 book deal. Like the second book, don't worry about it. Everyone's second book always sells worse. I'm like, why are you even like thinking this is my publisher? Why are you even thinking this way? Like literally, I'm like, you're trying to demote. Like, what are you doing here? Maybe it's like reverse psychology where they're just trying to get me like,
Maybe.
fired up or something. And I'm like,
It's
screw
funny though.
you. I'm gonna blow this out of the water. But the hard thing about a book is like you can't. I sold Millennial Money, man, and I was done with all this. Like you can't.
Yeah.
Like you can't. And then the only reason I bought it back, dude, and I came back the only reason because I was like, man, like I can't. I'm never gonna be able to get out, like escape this. Like I'm
Mm.
already. There's nothing I can do that can take my book. Like here, I'm sitting in Columbus, in Ohio. They have 19 copies in the library that
Yeah.
circulate, and
That's cool.
they're checked out, and there's always people, hopefully that are going to be reading it, getting value from it, and you can't take that off the shelf, right? So I'm going to get the emails, even if I don't do this, no matter what, from readers and
Right.
questions, and so it's like I can't escape this. I can't. So like, how can I do it on my own terms, in a way that ultimately, makes me happy. But I was done, man. I never wanted to talk about money or business. The first line of my new book was like, I was never going to write another money book. My editor already took it out. They're like, you
You
can't
can't say that.
tell people that you don't want to do this, and then that encourages them to read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I already have all the money I need, and I don't want to write this book. Now read my book. You know?
So funny. Oh
So
man,
now I'm
that's
just like, okay, like, but you got to live with it, man. It's out there, and I just see, I've seen a lot of really good creators, and I've seen a lot of people now in the last 8 years write books, and most of the books are shitty
yeah.
or derivative. And the thing is, they wanted to put a book out to have a book out because they thought that it would do a lot for them, but in reality, it ends up hurting you because the book, like just like your newsletter list or anything, you have no idea who's going to read it or who's
Yeah.
subscribed, and so you can really, really hurt yourself. It's just one brand or one partner or one employer or whatever. You have these creators that aren't able to really make a full-time income, or they're trying to build their business, and then they write these books, and then they have to get out of being a creator. You can't just go and get rid of them. A potential employer can read it.
Hmm.
Anyone can read it. So that's the
It's
only thing. It's not to scare people away. It's just like,
yeah. I've never
you
heard
know,
somebody describe writing a book like you almost described it like it was a prison for a little bit. You know what I mean?
the first one was stressful, man. Like it's like, you know, looking back, it's like, you get, you know, I'd never made an EP. It's like I'd never made an EP. I'd never written, I'd written a couple licks. I hadn't even written songs. And here's a record deal with Capitol Records.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the biggest
Yeah.
my editor, Caroline Sutton, she's the editor for the Dalai Lama and Brene Brown, and she edited Mindset, Carol Dweck. Like she edited that book. Like that was her brainchild. And
Yeah.
it's like this woman's like famous, and it's like this. I'm the only money book she ever bought, and it's like here, just do it, just do it. I mean, that was like
Yeah.
so stressful, bro, so
I bet.
stressful. And so yeah, it was just stressful. Yeah, that was just the best way to try it. So now I got past that stress, and then I really loved the process of writing financial. I was so inspired, right? It was like I think people. This is the thing about energy and consciousness generally. I think people good pieces of art or work or music or whatever. Like I think the thing that they have, why they resonate with people, they sort of come alive, and there's sort of there's like an energy dance that happens. You're meeting someone in there, like, because I wrote this thing, right? Or like someone writes a song, or Incubus, right? It's like you hear a song and you're like, oh yeah, this is great, right? It's like they created something not even knowing you, and you've been able to participate in a conversation with them, and that creates some energy in the world. And that energy, there's a lot I think that happens with that. And so I think that the first book I embedded so much, there was so much energy in it. You know what I mean? I was like, I want the world to know this. Like, I want to be heard. Like, I
Yeah.
want to, you know what I mean? I was stressed about that, dude. I wanted to exist in the world. It was like my ego, my everything. And the crazy thing is, dude, after I was on like the seventh stop of the book tour, I was in actually in Dallas, and I stopped, and some woman came up just sobbing, gave me a hug, talked about how the book had changed her life. And it was at that point where finally this huge weight on my shoulder for everything that I'd created just fell off. And I was like, oh my, like the
Wow.
5 gallon bucket of water was just overflowing, and I was
That's so
like,
cool.
that's it, right? It's like some burden, some like desire to be heard. And, it comes from my parents. My mom's like super intense and just,
Yeah.
just hardcore. And, all the way I grew up, and my parents didn't have any money. Like, money
Hmm.
was stressful. So I find it was that moment where it's like, whew, okay, like, wow, like and my parents sent me a letter. They're like, my mom like never really said that she was proud of me, and she sent me this card, her and my dad, and they're like, we're really proud, of you, that you did
Wow.
this and of who you've become. And that, man, is just tears, dude,
Yeah.
just complete release in my life. And since then, man, I got to be honest, like like the creative process has become a lot lighter and easier, because my everyone always said you have ego in something, like you want it to be successful, you want it to do well, but it's like my my whole self-worth was wrapped up in that first book, man. My whole
Wow.
everything. And in this one that made it more meaningful, I think, to create it. This one's been more of a grind in some way, and sort of like, oh, I don't have to do this. Like, anytime in
Right.
life when you don't have to do something, motivating yourself to do it, um, it's just like, oh wow, I'm really excited to spend 2,000 hours creating this thing that maybe, my email list will read, but I'm going to be immediately judged by the world, and I can never take it away. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, let me just set myself up for that. But I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. So I mean, God, should I write a book at some point, or you're making it sound a little like scary?
No, so for you, yes, I think you should write. If you want to write a book, you should write a book. I think that you should be very clear. The best way to write a book, first place to start, there's a book that's literally titled, has a red cover. It's in like the fifth edition. It's called How to Write a Book Proposal. It's like, that's what it's called. It's like the gold standard. Every agent, publisher, read that book, and then try to write the book proposal. Like, that's
Hmm.
the first step. And just try to write the book, because the book proposal, it helps you distill down, here's what this book is in 2 pages. So yes, you should write a book. Yes, 100%. The question is like, when do you do it? Do you have the right topic? Do you want to spend the time? I don't think, and then the question is like, why do you do it? Right? There's sort of like a lot of people, it's like, it's the ego. It's like the businessman, right? Being like, that's why you see people at the end of their career, they write these like fluff business books, but some of them are actually quite good. But like, the question is like, why are you doing it? Right? Are you doing it as a way to reflect on what you just went through? Are you trying to have a particular outcome? I generally think that books are like bad for a business unless your business is that thing, right? It's like someone writes like, what's his name? The guy who wrote, uh, any of these guys. So 12 months to $1 million, like Ryan
Hmm.
Moran, right? It's like he has basically a company where he's acquiring, these Amazon FBA businesses and helping these businesses grow. Or like, you write a specific book because you're trying to attract the people that are going to help your business grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's why you do it. Um,
Yeah.
so
I don't
like
want
for
to write a book
you,
for my business at all, to be honest with you. Um, I truly want to write a book at some point to help people. But I actually think for me, the timing, like I think it's going to be not an entrepreneurship book, but I think that building up my own story a little bit more would help. Um, and I don't think it's the right time for me to write a book, but like genuinely, I don't really, if I do write one, I don't care if it helps the business at all. Cause I do see people do exactly what you're talking about, where they write a book and they're like, this is going to help me get more speaking gigs and it's going to give me more credibility in the space. Like, I don't care about any of that. I just
right?
want to write a book that I think like I'm starting to get the seeds of like, okay, this is the story that I can tell people to help them, to truly help them. And I don't have it all fleshed out yet, but that's why I want to write one at some point.
Yeah, when you know, you'll know, and then the first step is to write that proposal. And that proposal, the thing, because going through the act of that, so much of like, I'm like, oh, like I send an email to my publisher, I want to write the follow up to Financial Freedom, Financial Freedom 2, and they're like, no, you can't do that. Like, no one, right? So it's like, okay, wait, well, I want to write this, and then they're like, write a proposal. Like, yes, we want to publish another book with you, but like, write it down. And the thing is, you almost have to write the act of just writing the proposal, like, you just, even if you start it now, right, or read the
Right.
proposals writing book, you're going to know in your head what they care about and what agents care about. And then, so instead of you just thinking, I want to write a book, what book do I want to write? You're like, oh, here's how I need to fill out this proposal, right? So it gives you a container for your thoughts, right? It's a lens with which to see the opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're like, oh, I just need like, I'm gonna just like create a Google Doc, and I'm gonna like whenever I have a little time and I just like think about writing a book or I have an idea for it, I'm just gonna throw it in there, and then I'm gonna turn that into a 2-page intro to my proposal. And oh, here I need comparable titles, like I mentioned, the 5 books like mine. Whenever I find a book that's kind of like it or is inspiring me, I'm just gonna throw the title there, right? And that, so it's like you start building out a proposal as a way to formulate, because what happens is you have that proposal, and then an agent reviews it, and they tweak it, and then you give it to the publisher, and they kind of tweak it, and then use that as the basis ultimately for an outline. And then, I mean, everything a book, like the gold of a book is the outline. Like you spend more time than anything else just on that outline because you need to understand, okay, here's kind of where I'm going. And it'll change a little bit, but usually once you have that down, it's like, okay, here's how this arc is and how this is structured. And so I'm just saying for you, like you can, like starting that process and understanding the sort of mechanics of it might be freeing in the sense that you're like, oh, like I need to create this like 30-page document, and so that becomes the precursor as opposed to just like, I need to figure all this out, or I need to,
Yeah,
because
for
you're not
sure.
going to know. No one knows. I mean, and then you start writing it and you're like, wow, this is very different than I thought it would ever be. And, you have to kind of write it into being. So if you really want to do it, you should start like,
Yeah.
when you
That's
do
a
have
great, yeah.
time.
No, that's great advice, man. I'll start with that because I feel like I'm still a couple years away from it's the energy thing that you talked about. It's like I feel it, like I feel it starting, and I'm like, okay, I've got something to say here, but I'm like, not yet though. It's not the right. I'm not all the way there. One thing I did want to ask you, because and I don't know if you don't want to talk about this, you don't have to. But how's having a kid? How old is your child?
It's 13 months.
13 months. Like, how has that changed your perspective on all this stuff? Just everything.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first off, I feel grateful that I had a kid after I already made a fair amount of money
Yeah.
because that takes away that stress. The other piece is I'm glad I waited till I was 37 to
Hmm.
have a kid because I feel like I've lived a couple of lives already.
Right.
I've traveled most of the places I want to go, not everywhere, of course, but I really, no one told me, even talking to you, like no one told me like how shitty the first 6 months are and how like my wife had a high risk pregnancy, like how
Yeah.
stressful it was.
Yeah.
And you really have to like, I mean, I'm not someone who does well with no sleep, and I went a little crazy for a while, right? Like maybe everyone does
Yeah.
that, right? But like no one tells you. Everyone's like, it's great, changes your life, it
It's
goes quick,
amazing.
right? No one's like, yo, just you're gonna die for like 6 months while you go through this, and
God, yeah, it
so
is awful.
it's awful, it's awful, right? And so it's the nicest. I mean, obviously, like she's amazing. I love her, and just now she's like starting to talk and come to life. I mean, it's just unreal. Like you can't. I feel like I have nothing in common with people who don't have kids now. You know what I mean? It's
Dude,
like
that's
you
exactly. I was
literally
like
can't.
anti-kid, man. I was like,
Yeah,
people, parents, and now I'm like, I can't even relate. Yeah, if you don't have a kid, it's hard for me to like. You're telling me your
yeah.
life is hard and like things are tough and you don't have time
Not
and you're
even. I
tired.
they look like foreign. Like I have some of my best friends that are have kids, and they literally look like foreign people to me. Like I'm like
Yeah,
something like. I think it's really cool because clearly, like I didn't think about this for having a kid, but now it's obvious. It's like biologically, there's so many rewards for reproducing.
yeah,
I think that like it unlocks a whole. And no one tells you this. I mean, maybe somewhere I just wasn't reading it, but it's like it unlocks a whole entire level of like your brain and your
that is
emotion, and it's like obviously it's going to feel really good because biologically we want to reproduce and keep our species alive, so there's all these immense emotional and sort of spiritual rewards for having children that, I mean, no one told me that. So it's like I think I felt like the first like 6 months I was kind of 4 to 6 months, I was kind of mourning who I used to be. Like I was like,
oh, that's
it's like
interesting.
it's like when you're like pulling away kind of the skin, like old person that you were. Like I was kind of mourning that. I was like, gosh, I miss just like laying around reading the paper on a Sunday, right? Or like I remember like like that feeling of like being bored or like kind of lazing around for a weekend. I was like, oh man, I miss that. Like I'm so tired. I just want a Sunday to
Yeah.
refresh, right? And then slowly that starts to dissipate, and then you're just like, I don't know. At some point, to me, like just having a kid just got me out of my own head, and it's not
Yeah.
even like I'm thinking about her all the time. It's just like all of a sudden, like me, like this anxiety of just like voice in your head or being a person, like that just starts to dissipate because whenever I'm thinking about something instead of in my own head, it's just like, oh, where's my daughter? Is she happy? What's going on? What's it?
Hmm.
And I think it's kind of like very meditative in a lot of ways being a parent. Like at least at this age, like for me, it's like you don't even have to think really hard. You just kind of like a lot of time I spend with her, I'm like laying in the middle of her big play area and she's crawling all over me and I'm like playing little games with her and I don't have to think really hard, but I have to kind of be present and paying attention to her.
Yeah.
And I can sort of just you can sort of let go of who you are for a while and just kind of live in that space. And so, man, it's just yeah, it's just unreal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's um it's made me worse at business for sure. Like it's 100%, man. It's not like it's taken away an edge or anything. Like I think just getting older does that, like as we talked about. But I find myself just one thing early on. I was like, yo, like, am I spending enough time? Like we have a nanny. Like, am I spending enough time with her? Am I
Hmm.
spending too much time? Am I this? Am I that? Now I don't even think that way anymore. Like the rhythm is so natural. Where I'm like, yo, like I've spent way too much time with her. I need to like go do something else and like work on my
Yeah.
book. And I need to. So that kind of it's nice for what we do, like being entrepreneurs. Like you can hopefully like you don't even have to like I'm spending time like people I'm gonna spend time with my kid now. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Like for me, it's just really kind of natural. Like it's nice to like her bedroom's like right behind this wall. So like when I hear her waking up from a nap, I'll go over there and I'll hang out with her for 20 minutes. And if I feel like
Yeah.
doing that, I will. If I don't, I. So it's like some of these sort of like work-life balance, family, engaged parent, all that sort of debates. I feel like when you're kind of where we're at, that's just not at least yeah for me the conversation. It's kind of natural, which is
Yeah.
nice. And that's just phases. Like I'm just like, yeah, it's awesome, man. God, it's just yeah, I feel, very grateful that I've been able to participate in this part of the human experience. I
It
think
is.
it's
It is
just,
that, man. It is a human experience. What you said about like the biological parts of it. The first time I saw my son, because my wife she had a hard pregnancy, not a hard pregnancy. She had a difficult like C-section emergency thing that happened. It was really stressful. But when I walked into the OR and I saw my son for the first time, I swear there was something in my brain unlocked. Like I don't know if there's like a little door that opens and
it
there's like a
has to
chemical
be.
that pours out. There was
Yeah.
something that happened because I felt different than I've like. It's like maybe it's just happiness. I don't know, but it was like floods your brain with like you feel better than you've ever felt in your entire life, and like your brain change. You feel yourself change in that moment, and that's something that like if I had heard a parent before I had a kid say something like that, I'd be like, "That shut up, that's stupid. Like that's not a real
Right,
thing."
right.
And then you experience it, and you're like, "Oh crap!" Like all these parents that are saying like having a kid is amazing. Like oh, there's something to that, and it is biological for sure, and spiritual and all that stuff. But yeah, dude, it's our kid just turned 3. God, it's so hard not to worry you for the future because you've got a girl, maybe you won't deal with this, but like he was so amazing, like so sweet for 2 years. And he was like just,
Hmm.
and then he turned 3 and like, oh my God, it sucks so bad.
He's
Like
just a
it's
terror.
so,
He's just all over the place.
yeah, it's just like the swings. That's when they start to get, at least in my experience, that's when they start to get these like irrational, huge swings in emotion. And like
Hmm.
they ask you for something and you give it to them and then they're pissed and they throw it at you. It's like, it makes no sense. Like it just turns into like total chaos and you're just like kind of part of it trying to survive it. Um, it's still fun though. I think from a business standpoint, I think it's made me probably better because I think it's made me care about, it's going to sound a little weird, care about people more, and less ego. Like I don't care about like myself or my standing in the world or anything. Like you just don't. It doesn't matter as much anymore.
That's
Like I don't
true.
really care. Like it's
That's
just
true.
now it's more about like truly, and I've always liked helping people, but now it's truly more about like, let's build a business that's like truly helping people and like, really doing good in the world and things like that. So I feel like it's made me a little bit better in that respect. But from a time standpoint, probably not as good. I don't know.
Yeah, I
You feel
remember you
like,
saying early on, you like after you first had your child. I remember we chatted, and you were just like, "Yeah, man, like I don't care about money at all." Like I think your reaction, you were
yeah,
like, I think or something. It was like you went from like because I was still like just doing like grinding, and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
"Yeah, I just had a kid. Like, once you have a kid, like, man, I don't even care about money." And and then I talked to you like a year and a half later, and I think I brought that up, or you
yeah.
brought that up, or something, and you were like, "Yeah, well, not really."
Yeah, I've gone through so many, I don't know, so many wild changes over the last 3 years. I feel like not even just because of the kid, just because I don't know, maybe it's just getting older. It's probably just that, going, now I'm in
Mm.
my mid 30s, things are different now. Um, I do still care about money, I guess, but it's not the same, like I don't, it's not definitely not the same as what I don't obsess over it. I think like having money certainly helps with that. Like I think if I was like broke, it would probably be more difficult. But now it's more about just like the building of something, like that's what's important. I think like you said earlier, like the playing in a sandbox with other people and building some cool shit like that is what I'm definitely enjoying right now. Um, but I am, kind of on that note and totally changing topics, but you talked about ChatGPT helping write your book. Do you have to like do you have to like give credit to ChatGPT if it helps you with that?
I don't
That's not my
know. I
real
don't think
question. I've got
yeah,
another question after
I
that.
don't I'm unsure of this. The one thing that it's very clear because I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna use ChatGPT to write my whole book. Like obviously I'm gonna use the tools available to me.
Yeah.
And so I started tinkering with it, and you're like, all these like you just Google like how to write a book with ChatGPT, and it's like all these YouTubers who like are science fiction writers or whatever, like trying to use
Yeah.
it to come up with storylines and stuff. You can't write a book with ChatGPT. You can't even
Yeah.
come close. You can't even write like a decent blog posts with Chat GPT. Like,
Right.
let's be honest. So when you start getting into it, you're like, what has Chat GPT done here? Chat GPT for me is very much kind of like a Grammarly tool,
Hmm.
right? Where you're using it like you upload something to Grammarly and you're like playing with how to, I spend a lot of time like, how do I make this? I've written something and, sometimes I'll just use a lot of commas and the sentence will get really long. And I'm like, how do you write this for an eighth grade reading level? And then you're like, oh, this is how to make it like a lot simpler. And I won't
Yeah.
even use like what comes out, but I'm like, like that is how to say this, right? And then you just take the idea and you rewrite it. You're like, oh, that's really what this thing is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what is like, how do you explain a P&L to an eighth grader?
Dude, okay,
You know what
this
I
might be
mean?
a
And
little
you're like,
embarrassing.
I'm like,
I do that for myself all the time. Like if there's like a difficult concept that I don't understand, I'll go to ChatGPT and like explain this to me like I'm 10 years old. And then it
that's
does. And I'm
that's
like,
that's
oh
a
shit, that's awesome.
I've ironically never even thought of doing that, but like I'm
Dude, you
doing,
should do it. It's
but
crazy because if you can do like 2 year old or 5 year olds, it'll be like, I don't know, it'll explain accounting to you as if it's like cookies or something. And
that's
like,
cool. That's
it's,
actually really,
it's cool, man. I like using it for that. I mean, I think it's probably, I, I wish I was maybe a little bit smarter and didn't have to do that, but I like that it's
no,
made for
it's
people like me.
what a great use
Um,
case. I mean, the thing is like it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just like now using it, it's so refreshing to me because I'm like everyone's like AI is going to take your jobs. Everyone's jobs, right?
yeah.
I'm like, dude, AI, and I have to write some of this into my book, right? Because it's sort of like what
Hmm.
is the threat of AI for you as an entrepreneur, right? And I'm very bullish on just humans and humanity and
I am too.
storytelling, and so I'm just like, yo, here's your competitive advantage. No one can be you. Like, yes, maybe they'll become sentient and
Right.
you'll live in a science fiction. Yeah, maybe all that'll happen. But it's encouraging to me trying to use it to write the book because I'm like, ha, like it can't even, it's not even
Can't
that
even, yeah.
useful. It's
That
really
is,
not. It's really not even that useful. Like if you're like, so you can tell, like if I'm like, hey, how do you sell a business, right? I have like half a chapter on this or almost a whole chapter on this, right? You ask ChatGPT and it just gives you these bullet points, which are decent sort of guidelines for how you would. But if you've actually gone through the process, you're like, no one actually cares about that, and that. They actually care about these other things. And
yeah.
maybe these are the rules, but unless you've actually experienced the thing, there's all these unspoken rules that are different than the actual rules, right? It's like that's why like mergers and acquisitions is actually like, it's like more like a poker game, or it's more like
Yeah.
it's not this like Everyone thinks these things are so like buttoned up and fine tuned. It's like, no, it's like people throwing around big numbers and just like trying to bully the other one. And like, they're like, wait, is there a better offer? Are you waiting? Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's more ethereal than that. And so ChatGPT, it's just so literal where it's like, it's good at telling you the steps, right? But it's not, if you haven't actually done it. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. So people are going to try to write all these whatever they're trying to write, and they don't have the experience piece. And the experience piece, you can't, like ChatGPT can read everything at once, but the thing is, it's not going to be able to create such a defined filter because it's not a human, right?
Right.
Like it like can't make mistakes for itself and understand those as mistakes. So anyway, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I
No, I mean we
probably will
can. I mean,
mention that I've used, here are the tools that I used in writing this, but it's not useful. It's not like it'd be
yeah,
awesome if it was like, hey, write me a chapter on how to, you know, do X, but it actually,
yeah.
yeah, it's not.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you more. That wasn't my real question. But my real question was gonna be more about like how do you see it impacting business? Because especially with the position you're in, where you're acquiring businesses and you're so much in the content space, like I am too. But like, dude, we have used it. We've tried to use it for like blog posts and stuff like that, and like it was such a pain for a writer. It was like you might as well just write the blog post yourself. Like it's not worth trying to do it. And maybe it gets so much better to where it can do all that stuff, but I just don't see it. I feel very similar to you. Like I don't see it as super useful or like super like I think it's a tool to get like some things done faster. I don't see it as this thing that's going to destroy everybody's job. At least not right now. But I'm curious how you feel about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, obviously, so I own MMG Media, which is a holding company of personal finance websites that was designed for a 5-year time period. And so I
Hmm.
started this company after selling Millennial Money because when I sold Millennial Money, I had no non-compete. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna use
Which
the
is
same
wild, by the
team.
way.
So wild. It's
It's
so
awesome.
crazy. Yeah. No non-compete. So 2 weeks later, launched MMG Media, started building, Bank Bonus, knowing full well and transparently with my team and the market that we are in the last golden age of
Yeah.
affiliate personal finance content marketing. So here, the ship is going down, right?
Right.
Like there goes the Titanic. How do I? How can I play in that, right? So this wasn't like I'm going to build a business for the next 20 years or 10 years. I was like, we've got 5 years or less, right? So that was the plan. So let's
Hmm.
get in. Let's start building a site from scratch in one of the most competitive industries to try to gain some ground before our competitors to start copying us, right?
Sure.
And so we launched Bank Bonus, and then we reacquired Millennial Money. I got such a great deal on Millennial Money that it was a no-brainer to acquire.
Sure.
And then I acquired the Rideshare Guy and Financial Residency. We actually recently acquired Money Crashers. So all these sites that like historically have just crushed it, right? But a lot of them need to be recovered. And the question is like, how much value can you extract from these these sites and create value and started building it ultimately to sell the holding company. And now it's not a seller's market; it's a buyer's market. So we started, acquiring more sites, but it's all through the lens. I'm not paying millions of dollars for these sites. I'm not
Sure.
taking a lot of risks. I have a very aggressive deal structure. I'm playing the intermediate to advanced game of legal contracts and moving pieces. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm going to play the advanced game of the video game for the next 2 years and see what I can make of it.
Yeah.
Some of it's been an absolute train wreck. Some of it's worked out well. By and large, it's been profitable for me. So the amount of money
Yeah.
that I put into launching the business, I've gotten a lot more of that out of it. So I'm happy with that.
Cool.
Not bullish, super bullish on the big exit for the media company. So now I'm just like in the trenches.
Mm.
And to your point about I'm not bullish on. Um, let me make this. I'm very bullish on personality driven content sites and communities, right? As we all
Yeah.
are, right? So I launched my own business membership community in November. Now I've got 300 members, and
Heck
I
yeah.
do a Q&A, and you were
Yeah.
launching it in January, which is very much like it's Grant. It's like, hey, this is my. It's just like any creators community, where it's like, show up, ask me any question. We've got people with dope food blogs and soda stream refill businesses and real estate photography, all this other stuff. And it was basically like Grant knows a lot of stuff. Pay this monthly fee. Grant, well, you can ask Grant any question you want. And it's a lot of fun for me
Yeah.
because I can just like learn about a lot, and it's $49. So it's cheap, and it's like people get it's awesome. It's so fun. I've been able to like test a lot of ideas in the book. So I'm moving to that for my own sort of just business model. Like space. I'm bullish on that. But in terms of like, so if you're a personality driven content site, I'm pro that. Other than that, like I think personal finance blogging is monetizing it is pretty much impossible. Just and just all the sites like Google's clearly just going to the higher DA
Yeah.
site. So that's why Rideshare Guy, we're trying to do some different stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm really pro like, I built like the dopest rogue gym in my basement, in Ohio. And like I got deep down that rabbit hole, like building a home gym and that whole space and like garagegymreviews.com and all these sites that are like way better than any like personal finance kind of affiliate content site because it's so focused on just like gym equipment, right? And I'm
Right.
like, damn, that's a great business. I wish I had that website. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I was like, I want that one. It's like, there's no way, right? It's like that website. This guy's been doing it like 10 years or longer. YouTube channel is great, amazing. I like bought this like new $500 bench, like weight adjustable rate bench, and I like went through specifically his website and used his affiliate link because I was like, this dude's so great, I just want him to get paid. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
so people like that will persevere.
Mm.
But unless you have something real distinctive, it's like a thing, like an actual thing. There's still
Yeah.
opportunity, but yeah, Chat GPT, I think people are exploiting it now, and clearly making money from it. But you
Yeah.
see that in our space all the time. Like how many of these copycat sites of ours have you seen blow up and
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
drop and the
See it all the
durable
time.
perspective, of a person. Yeah. So long story short, not bullish really on
Yeah.
personal finance sites, bullish on other niches. I tried to buy a magazine recently that didn't work out too well. But
That's awesome.
I'm like actively trying to invest in other areas. I walked through a diner recently to thought same thing about getting into some non-digital type asset classes. But then I just once again go through that lens of like, making 150 grand a year profit as an owner of a diner with 1.4 million in revenue, not nearly as attractive as the
No.
businesses that we're
Hell
that
no.
we're in, that were
Yeah.
like even like a crappy website. So you look at the profit margins in
They're
my book.
crazy.
In my book I'm
Yeah.
so partial. I'm like asset light businesses. Like I was like, here's how amazing it's been for the past 5 years. I don't know if this will ever continue. But then I go back to like what do I actually enjoy doing, and I like writing books, right? So like, am I going to make as much money writing books as I do from owning these websites? Probably not. But am I going to look back in 10 years and have hopefully a shelf of books that I've written and had a lot of fun doing it and been proud of it? I think I'm going to be a lot more satisfied by that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to own many websites post kind of a year or two from now.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way, man. I tell the team all the time, like, we should expect that there will be zero affiliate revenue dollars coming in and zero search traffic coming in, within a year. And I don't know if that time frame is realistic, but that's the way we're building our company, though, because I see, you see, you probably see more than I do, but you see what's happening with Google, and you see what's happening with it's just, yeah, we're definitely in the. I think. I mean, I don't know. Things could always change, but I think we're in the last ages of like the tons of traffic from Google and all that.
Yeah, just traffic into free money.
Yeah,
100%,
traffic and money from air. So yeah, that's part of why we're kind of aggressively building out our programs and low ticket and high ticket and membership stuff, just because I just feel like that's the safer way for us. But I am curious for you, like what is like Grant's long term? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you ever going to just retire, or are you just going to continue? Like, are you going to move into more of like a private equity? Like, what is your thing 15 years from now that you're going to be doing after the websites are gone and the internet has completely changed, robots have taken over?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think it does go back to the book piece. I'm pretty bullish on physical analog assets. So
Mm.
one of the things, I've been collecting vinyl and cassettes and sports cards and
That's cool.
watches, for a while, just myself, right? I'm into it. So I'm not saying in terms of exploiting that for gain. I'm pretty bullish on the book as an object. I actually think that like, you're starting to see business book sales start to uptick, fiction start to uptick. So I think what you're seeing, especially younger consumers, there are always going to be those people who are like, just want the quick hit, right? They're always going to be that. But I think there is an increasing sort of emergence of people going back to the physical form. So I'm pretty bullish on books. And I'm saying that, long-windedly is, I'm just going to keep writing. I think, if you look at, who's Grant at 55 years old, I think if I can write a book every 3 or 4 years, if I can find the
Oh, wow.
topic and the interest, I'm just going to keep writing. So I have
That's cool.
I have a book for after this one, so I know I'll do three, and hopefully there'll be other topics, and I might diversify into, other areas. This is going to be the last sort of businessy book. The next book I'm writing is about my meditation practice, and so I'm going to like veer hard left, and that should be kind of fun to take some of like the ways in which I write and map it to, a different topic area. So yeah, I want to be a writer, man. I'm bullish on that.
That's cool.
I and I'd love to own a non-digital business. A bookstore. I'd love to own a bookstore. There's a couple I've looked at. Not great businesses, but it'd be really, I think, soul enriching and run
Yeah.
it as a nonprofit. And I make enough money on my index funds now to live on. I spend a lot more money than I used to. I bought an apartment in New York.
Yeah.
I have a kid. I spend a lot more money than I used to. So I'm definitely in the fat fire realm. So, that's one of the questions is like, will I always be able to return the amount of money with just my investments to live on? And the answer to that is probably yes, but I'm a perennially, I'm a money worrier, right? So I probably have an irrational perception of like how much money I need saved, in order to live off the investment gains, but it's more than enough. And so the question is like, will I ever have the confidence? Let's just say, will I ever have the confidence to say, all right, man, just living off the dividend, right? Or keeping the print, or living off the dividend, or living off the 4% or the 5%. I mean, I did that. Like so, like MMG didn't make any money until this year, right? We
Yeah.
started paying ourselves salaries, so really for I make money from the book and stuff, but really right after I sold the website for the that first year, I wasn't making a ton of money, so I got a little feel of that, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I love creating. I also get bored pretty easy. And so I'm at a point now where it's like, I think buying something that's like a bookstore or even something like a landscaping company. I've looked at a few of those. I'm kind of
Yeah.
into that space and just getting something that's more physical. I'm really into lifting, like lifting weights. So I thought about like there is a local gym by me that I thought about maybe buying just
Yeah.
to have like not to turn a franchise. Like I want to buy something that I don't just have to like blow up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just like, hey, can I be like that guy and just use some of the principles? So I'm kind of into that idea. I don't think I'm going to participate in the evolution of the digital space. I don't really have any desire to like get involved in AI, at a deeper, more sort of like I'm pivoting to be an AI, a la Marie Haynes,
Hmm.
whatever expert or, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, and then in terms of investing, yeah, I've diversified, so I invest, in a few other, do some type of venture investing, but candidly, sort of the upside sounds great, but I haven't had a winner yet.
Mm.
And then it's just like fun for a while, right? It's like fun
Right.
talking to people who are launching their companies, and then like you're like, oh, you're like so young or so naive, you don't really understand. You know what I mean? Like you don't really get it, like So like
Yeah.
there's that. So I'm not like called to do that. I have an increasing number of friends who are more, higher net worth, so that's kind of fun to sit and chat with them a little bit. And
Yeah.
then yeah, I want to be a dad, and I want to just kind of let go of kind of the. I think I'll always be an entrepreneur to some extent, but I don't. I'm grateful. I feel grateful that I don't have outsized aspirations to like you know, have $500 million or something.
Right. Yeah. I always wonder about people like people that do build those companies that are just massive, or just even like I wonder about like a Dave Ramsey or somebody like that, where they've got a couple $100 million a year type of business. Like I would imagine that at some point you're just like, what am I doing? Like why
It
this
has
is
to get
just
so
stress.
boring. Like his
Yeah,
podcast or something. Like all this stuff has to get so boring doing it
yeah,
after a while. I mean, I get bored
yeah,
quick, but that's like imagine doing a podcast for like 15 years
yeah. I
where
couldn't
it's
do that.
just answering people's questions who 98% of them all call in with the exact same problem and you give largely the exact same advice. I think it's probably why he's so angry or something. Oh, did you cut out? I can't hear
Oh,
you.
oh, sorry. No, I didn't cut out. I'm just stupid. I muted
Oh,
myself.
uh,
Did that again. No, I was talking to, I had Marco from Whiteboard Finance on, and we had a conversation. It was like, I had him on right after Dave gave, that was, what was that? The withdrawal. He was like, you should be able to
oh,
withdraw
the
12% a
4%,
year,
8%, 8%.
8%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Whatever.
And it's like, oh my God. I was so shocked. Like, I was like, this guy's been doing this forever. Like, how does he not know?
He's out
Like,
of touch, dude. It's like they ask, go watch like the clip of like I think Bill Gates was on Ellen, and Ellen did this like funny game, like what is the price of this grocery item? And because like Bill Gates hadn't been grocery shopping himself in like over 20 years, and he guessed. Oh my God, how much? It was something insane. It was like for like a thing of detergent. I think he says like $38 or something. Like he had like no clue. It's so you know what I mean, but it's that, dude. It's like you really lose touch. You really do lose touch. I think with kind of the average everyday person's experience. So he's just further and further away, and he thinks that the people who were broke when he first started doing it are the same people now. And the thing is, people have changed, right? And
oh yeah.
all that. Yeah, that's just man, that's just yeah, that doesn't even make me sad. Have you read this book? It's called Whatever It Takes by
No.
Steven Schwartzman. So
Mm-mm.
Steven Schwartzman is the dude. You need to read this book. You'll absolutely love it. So Steven Schwartzman is the founder of Blackstone. The big investment company. He's like top 10 wealthiest people in the world. And I bought this book. I was at a used bookstore. I bought it for like $3. He's got like the suit on the front, and he's like a very conservative guy, and but
Yeah.
I knew him as the founder of Blackstone, and I was like, you know what, $3, like I need a book, it's like I'm just gonna read this and see what's up, and like I thought it was gonna be a puff piece, and this dude is like a genius, like it blew the whole book blew me away, like just
Really?
how he thinks about. Yeah, it took him like 10 years to write it or something, amongst other
Wow.
things. And just his mindset around like building his multi-billion-dollar company and starting it and building it up. And I mean, it was nice to read because I was like, oh wow, like I'm not built that way. You know what I mean? Because he's basically like, one of these perennial kind of Dan Sullivan-y guys where it's like, or even Tony Robbins or something where it's like, if you're going to build a business, like it's the same amount of energy to build a big business versus a small business. So why not try to build a big business? It's like that kind of prototypical,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
boomer mindset, right? But he did it. He went and built, Blackstone, and how he thinks about acquiring companies, and it really like few books kind of take my breath away. And reading this, I really was like, wow, it's amazing spending this time in this guy's head, and I learned a lot. I mean, I really did. I think you would actually
Okay.
enjoy it. And then I
I'll
went
get
down
it.
the rabbit hole after that of like reading books written by billionaires, just to kind of get there. They're of that generation, right? Just to kind of get
Right.
that sense of how they think. And yeah, there's a lot of smart guys, and um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so that's a great book. Whatever it takes. It's really he's got an ego, right? So he's like, oh yeah, I'm at like the Trump White House. Trump like when the financial system was like crashing, like presidents call him to get his opinion on the economy and stuff. So he like drops some of that. He's like, the whole world was gonna burn down, and then the president called me. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
like you get through that, and then you're like, wow, it's like really interesting. So,
Okay. I'll check it out.
but it's good to not have that kind of. I remember you telling me like, oh yeah, I play golf with this guy who's like a billionaire. Sorry, you played golf with someone who had like a lot of money or
Yeah.
super successful, and you're kind of that was inspiring you. I've only hung out with a few. I've hung out with two billionaires, both of whom are like past being a billionaire, and they're like kind of in a meditation group that I was in, and they're like not even they don't even care about business. So I never got any like actual kind of life advice. But I
Yeah.
generally am like happy to not be in that pursuit.
Yeah. No, yeah, that guy that I play golf with, like, made so much money during COVID because he was a medical device. He's a medical device rental company. And so
Ah,
when the entire country needed ventilators, he was like one of the
right.
only people that could provide ventilators for the entire country.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things I learned from him is like, I mean, he's got so much money and he was just like, yeah, I still worry about money every day, like really worry about it, like very concerned about it. And I was like, how is that even possible? Um, so I do,
Did
yeah, I learned a lot
did
from
he
him. And
explain why? Did he explain like he's
it's
worried
mostly
about
because of his
losing it
business.
or
No,
uh
I think it's one protecting it because like he's at a place right now where it's like, he could put it in index funds, but I mean, it's just he's got so much that he's like, I don't even know really what to do with this. He's got a lot of it, I'm sure, held in cash right now, which he just like, I don't know where to put this. And then the other thing is like, he's just like, I still worry about my employees and protecting the business, and I want to take care of people and I don't want to ever have to cut jobs. So I think it's more of that kind of stuff. I don't think
mhm.
he personally worries about running out of money, but I think he's just worried about now the business that he's built, making sure that it continues to sustain the people that work at the business. So um, I think that's probably his biggest concern. But
Does he have a
I'm
goal? Like I tend to find that like at least for me, kind of not having a goal is somewhat freeing, right? It's like even from a business perspective, because like when you set these goals, you're like unhappy if you don't meet them. If you blow through them, you're kind of like, wait, why did I even set that goal? So I feel like goals are somewhat of like they can be motivating, but they're kind of like lose lose in a little
yeah,
bit.
I don't
Does
think he
he have
does.
those? Okay.
No, I think what happened for him is that he just made way more money than he ever thought he was ever going to make, and now he's just
And
in
now
this
there's no
place of
idea
like,
what to do with.
yeah, he's like, I
Yeah.
just don't know. It's like,
Mm.
you're not talking about what I would consider like a super enjoyable business model.
Right.
Like you're renting medical equipment to people, so it's like, or to hospitals. So yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. I mean, I love talking to him about it, but it's just it's a very good reminder for me because I do want to, for whatever reason, I want to scale the business that I have, and it's like it can't be about the money because like it doesn't matter how much of it you have, like you're still going to either worry about it or think you need more, or that can't be what it's for. Um, so yeah, man, it's cool. That's why I love golf.
Do you,
One of the other good. Go ahead.
no, I had a question for you. Like, do
Yeah.
you like one of the most challenging things for me, more like post exit than post FIs? Like, I mean, I really at all stages is just like once you get to a certain stage of wealth, getting comfortable having that money. That's been a particular like that's something that you know. I mean, I haven't read much on it, and I don't think many people write about it. But it's sort of like getting comfortable. You never think you're gonna have money, and then you have money, and you're like, oh crap, I have money, right? You try to hold on to it, and then you
Yeah.
have a little more money, and then you start spending a little more, and then you maybe rein it in, and then I mean, we all go through these like different phases, but
Yeah.
like getting comfortable. Like, what about you? Like to your point of like being a teacher and now having more success than you ever thought you would. Like, how do you even think about and business is done well? Like, have you gotten comfortable with the amount of money that you have or that you make, or as it? You seem a lot calmer. Um, I
um,
mean,
I mean, sure. I guess I want more money. To me, like,
it's not wanting it. It's like, yeah, you can want it. I mean, I want more money. Everyone wants more money.
yeah, I think everyone
It's
wants more
it's
money.
more it's more just like, do you get comfortable with having it, right? Like, do you feel? I remember you were like when you bought your house. I don't know if you're still in the same house or not. But you're like, yeah, I got this house. We kind of outgrew it. Now I kind of want another house. And then you were like, no, I kind of like staying here, so I want to keep this house. Like, have
Yeah.
you? Do you know what I mean? It was sort of like because we were coming up in similar fashions, right?
Yeah.
It's like, um, are you comfortable with it now? Like, are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, comfortable. It's like it's interesting because I'm thinking of like all the different scenarios. Like sometimes I'm comfortable with with the level of success that I've had, and I don't feel like I really want to build a. I think where I'm at right now is like I don't want to build a business to make more money because I've realized like I have a skill set, and I think every entrepreneur probably gets to a point like this if they're successful. Like I have a skill set where I don't ever have to worry about making money or having enough money. Like I will always, if everything fell apart, I would be just fine. Like I'd, so I'm never worried about that. I think right now, I really truly do. The thing I love about having money to invest back in the business, or I like being able to create new opportunities for people. And so like one of my favorite things has been like being able to give awesome bonuses and like being able to give raises. And, now I'm doing like equity, we're doing phantom equity in the company for employees. Like that has been the most, that's been the most fun out of everything. Not just like making money for me. I'd rather keep more money in the business. Like I don't really care about paying myself very much money. Like let's keep more in the business. Let's hire more people and provide opportunities for them to become wealthy through the business than just me making a bunch of money. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
More tax efficient, certainly.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is that. But yeah, no, I feel comfortable. I mean, I think your point about like, I've gone through probably 2 phases of like, when I started Laptop Empires, that was money. I never thought that was going to even be successful at all. Like, dude, I was making like 10 grand a month or something before that, maybe, which is great for at the time. Cause I was comparing it to my teacher salary, but like we did 140 grand in the first weekend. And I was like, I never even seen that kind of money before. So like I definitely started naturally spending more money. Cause I was like, this is incredible. Like I can do whatever. Yeah. And we went to like Italy and France and did all this stuff. But then like, as I realized later in business, like business, especially in the online world, but I think always it just changes, and it's what is easy now is not going to be easy 2-3 years from now, and you have to reinvent yourself all the time and all that. So I really realized that with Laptop Empires, because it became harder to just like send emails out and make $100,000 in a weekend. Like we had to do a lot more work to get that to happen. So I cut back on spending, and now I feel like I'm at a very comfortable level with spending and all of that. We are going to build another house, I think, next year. We're going to move my mother-in-law in with me. And yeah, it's gonna be a nicer house and a bigger house and all of that. But, I don't know. So I guess to answer your original question, like, yeah, I feel very comfortable with where I am. Because I'm focusing so much more on the business instead of like my personal goals or like trying to be the richest person in the world or whatever. Like, I really have found a lot more joy, and I guess I am like more relaxed. I don't know. I'm just happy, dude. And maybe it doesn't last like this forever, but it's cool.
Look how far we've come. It's wild. I thought it'd be funny to actually talk about money, like ironically, right? Because it's like that's what we used to talk all the time. We used to, when we were building all this stuff and all these websites, and we were like kind of competitors early on, and then we partnered up and learned a lot from each other. And I think you and I quickly realized early on it was like the space was so big and the opportunity was so big, and our stories were so different, which is cool, man. Which is pretty unique. Like I do, it's funny when you look back, because you like, I kind of miss some, it's like as happy as I am, you kind of look back and remember the certain kind of energy and potentiality of certain moments. You remember like the Rockstar Finance community and like all that early, like everyone's creating and sharing each other's stuff. And it was very earnest and kind of honest. And, even with like, our mastermind group and, that we're both a part of, and it's like things change so rapidly.
Yeah,
right? It's like I remember it's been cool for me, honestly. I gotta say, like seeing you kind of come out and just dominate, and like even you like working with some of the other guys in the mastermind group, and I remember pushing for you for that group, and
I appreciate that.
Pumped, and it's just been that's what a cool group, right? I mean, it's been. I mean, I would not have accomplished like hardly anything, without them, and just seeing what was possible. And it's wild to see the evolution of it, though, right? It's like people sell and then they buy their businesses, and I mean, that space, right? It's like, some of those guys buying their businesses back, and those are dropping or tanking, or it's I don't know.
That is weird to see. And I will say one of the awkward things I felt like for me when I first came in, I was not a successful affiliate marketer, or really,
I wasn't either, though, when I started. Like,
and then that group obviously changed a lot of things for me. But like, I felt like kind of like maybe like an outsider. People asked a couple of questions about like courses and stuff, but now I see this like gradual shift to like everybody's like wanting to create their own products and courses, and more of a brand that they can leverage the info products. And so I'm like, okay, I think I'm actually going to be able to be more helpful, like than I have been. So yeah, dude, it's been cool. And yeah, that group has changed a lot of things for me. And, I miss the early days too, man. Those were fun times. Like, I remember that time you came on my boat. and
Awesome. You got sick. I felt bad you got so sick, even though I had nothing to do with it. I think you
yeah,
got really sick after the fact, but it was fun being on that boat. Yeah, it was so nice, like hanging and
yeah.
yeah,
We
it
just
was
need to do it
like
again, man. Wait, let's just
creative.
do it again.
We should do it
Why are we
again.
not?
Yeah, a new
I'll
era.
come out
I
to
don't know. I'm such an
middle of the country.
introvert, man. I'm such an introvert. I really am. I'm like not. I try to like. I just am. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
literally, I'm just
I am
like
too.
happiest with my books, and you know, so it's hard for me to even like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at it. You know, following up with people or
Yeah.
you have some people who are really good at it, right? It's like you have friends, maybe you're good at it. I don't know. But it's like you have friends who like
No.
text you, but your friends who text you and they check in. You know what I mean? I have these friends that are like, "What's going on? I haven't heard from you." You know, it's like they carry our friendship almost. You know,
Right.
because they're so good at it. Like some people are naturally good at it, and I'm just like terrible. You know,
Yeah, I'm
and
not good
so
at it
like
either.
for me, I'm just like, yeah, out of sight and just kind of like, oh, they're just doing their own thing. I don't want to bother them. But yeah, life's funny, man. You know, got kids. Both the websites are still up. That's kind of cool, right? I got my
Yeah.
website back, even though it's like, what do I do with this thing? You know, that's always like the affiliate
Yeah.
space is fun. It's fun, but it's not super fulfilling
Yeah. It's that's
after some point. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's like that's the only thing about that. You're like, oh, this is great, but you know.
Yeah, it can feel a little soulless. Well, here's what we're gonna do because my kid just woke up and he's like
All right,
tripping
cool,
already. I hear him slamming stuff against walls. But
cool.
we'll schedule another one of these. I'll have you back on,
Yeah,
and then we'll at least catch up there. But I think we should let's hang out, dude.
yeah,
Um,
man. We should. We definitely should.
um,
It's been great catching up, man. I'm happy things are going so well, and
yeah, likewise,
yeah,
man.
always.
Can
If you want to do the
um,
book, always reach out to me if you ever want to do the book.
yeah, dude. Oh, I absolutely will hit you up about that. And then, I mean, do you even want people to find you anywhere? Do you like you want to share any? Do you want people to just go to your websites? Millennial Money, Financial
Um,
Residency,
so the only
Rideshare
way to
Guy.
hear from me, yeah, no, the only way to hear from me, if you go to Millennial Money and you go all the way down to the bottom of the website, and there's something called Grant's Corner. If you click on Grant's Corner, you can subscribe to my email list. There's over 200,000 people, and I send out an email if I'm lucky once a month, and usually that's like a deep dive on something I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But that's really the only place to find me on
Okay.
the interwebs at this point.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to the next book. Please send me a copy, please.
Of course,
Um,
man. Of course, man. Thanks for having
cool.
me on. Great,
Yep.
great. Glad we could do this, and good luck with the afternoon with the kiddo, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, bye.